Well, Prince Harry just got done with the Invictus Games, and I know that he's a very big supporter of those games, and he still keeps participating in them, even though he's officially stepped down from his royal duties. What I'm going to do today is we're going to take a look at some of the upcoming transits in Prince Harry's chart, just to get an idea of what energies are going to be influencing him in the near future. Of course, he's a very popular figure. Everybody is interested in Harry and Meghan, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you're new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. And also, if you are interested in your own astrology reading, check for details down below. There's a special going on, 40% off if you use codename Thor at checkout. And of course, it always supports me and what I do. So thank you very much for all your support. So let's go ahead and take a look at Prince Harry's chart. We're going to just jump right into it. Here's Prince Harry's chart. And a quick disclaimer, this reading is for entertainment purposes only. These are all just speculations about Prince Harry's chart and allegedlys. Okay, so let's go take a look here. One of the things to notice is we do have Saturn transiting Saturn. In the third house right now, we have transiting Rahu in the fifth house. And why am I bringing this up is because, the most important transiting planets that we look at are going to be Saturn, Ketu, and Rahu. And then also, we're going to take a look at his Vimshatari Dasha and see what planetary period he's in as well. So Ketu is going to be in the opposite sign in Libra here. So it's on the 5 and 11 axis. With Rahu being in the fifth house, again, there's very much a focus on children right now. There is some sort of celebrity spotlight. And what's interesting with Rahu in the fifth house is during this transit, he did publish the book Spare. That's something to notice back in January. So that did happen during this transit. So whenever you have something with the fifth house, it can represent creative works, books, it can represent children. So that's all indicated there. Now, with the Rahu Ketu transit, I wanted to bring up that October 30th is going to be an important date for everybody, not just Prince Harry. This is going to be the date that I see, especially when we're thinking about upcoming energies, as far as something that's really influencing Prince Harry at the moment. I feel like it's going to be this October 30th date. And let me clean up the chart for a moment here. October 30th is important because that's going to be when Rahu finally goes backwards into the sign of Pisces. So remember, when we're looking at Rahu and Ketu, they're one of the few, they're shadow planets, but they actually transit backwards through the zodiac. Okay, so they're actually going counterclockwise. They're not going clockwise through this chart here. So what's going to happen is Rahu is going to go in the fourth house of Pisces, and then Ketu is going to be entering the 10th house of Virgo in Prince Harry's chart. What I find interesting about this whole placement is Rahu in the fourth house tends to lend to this idea of being at home more often, kind of more domestic duties, maybe not being out in the spotlight as much. And then K2 also being in the sign of the 10th or sign of Virgo in the 10th house. Remember, K2 tends to be the planet or the shadow planet that represents more of a dispersing influence. So if you think of the 10th house represents being out in the public, being in the public eye, and K2 being in the 10th house would represent like a lack of being in the public eye, or even that the public is more disinterested in what you have to say. So there might be this waning of interest. And I think a lot of you and followers, a lot of you followers are really feeling that there is kind of this disenchantment happening with Harry and Meghan right now in a general sense. And the reason is because, they had the Netflix documentary, of course, and then Harry released the book. And it's kind of like, well, everybody knows the story now. Okay, so now we're kind of like moving on. So I think that, they really capitalized on that time where they came out with all this really bombastic information. And, Prince Harry and his drama with the royal family. But this shows a disinterest. like, and this could be a disinterest from the public here with K2 being in the 10th house. So I talk about Rahu a lot, but it is important to look at K2. Definitely we have to look at K2 when we're analyzing a chart. So this is something to really that really may hit home. There might be this idea of his purpose is feeling like it's dwindling in some sort of way. Like maybe there was this really strong purpose with this, him and Megan are together and they're kind of coming out with these exposés on the royal family and the drama there. And then maybe there's just this dwindling interest. And it's like, okay, so what do we do now? That is really kind of what to think about. Okay, what do we do now? And that's a big question for, you know, all of us to think about is, well, what does Prince Harry do? Once this dies down, what is he going to do now? Because it's kind of like, okay, you have your life and your future ahead of you. What are you going to do from now on? So that's the big date, October 30th with that. And then we're going to talk about the Vimshatari Dasha here. Now, in some of my previous videos, we did talk about he's in the Rahu Mahadasha moon right now. Moon is in the 5th house. I'm not going to focus too much on this. Again, just go back into this video and we'll talk about with moon being in the 5th house, it's activating the 8th house. There's a lot of scandal from the book release and, all the drama with the royal family. That's the 8th house. And then 5th house releasing the book and so forth, and a focus on children. So that's what we're having right now. The moon period, though, ends on March 11th, 2024. And that's really what I want to talk about. So Rahu moon is going to turn to Rahu Mars on March 11th, 2024. That's when he's going to enter Rahu Mars. And let's talk about what Rahu Mars means. He's going to be in this period till March 30th of 2025. So it's almost about a whole year. You'll notice that when we look at charts, Bhuktis oftentimes will be about a year or 2 years, depending on the Mahadasha. But it's funny how they line up. It's like 1 year, okay? So starting in March, he's entering the Mars period. Mars in Prince Harry's chart is in the 12th house. It rules the 12th house and it is in the 5th house. So when we're interpreting Mahadashas or Bhuktis, we have to look at where is the planet, like what house does it reside in? And then we have to look at what houses does the planet rule. So it rules the 5th house of Aries, 12th house of Scorpio. So these are all going to be indications of what to expect during this year-long period that Prince Harry is going to be in next year. And we also have to look at what planets it is Mars associated with. So Mars is associated with K2. So we have to take that into consideration, that there's this influence from K2 and Mars. Okay. So that shows that Prince Harry has a lot of past life energies involving Martian energy. He may have been a warrior in past lives, with K2 and Mars. And that really manifested with him being, he was in the military. So that could show a lot of his past life information manifested into the reality he's in. Okay, so Mars is a period where you're on the go, and it can be a lot of difficulty, but I do want to point this out about Prince Harry's chart is Mars is in the 12th house, though. The 12th house is more of an interior. It's one of the Dashtana houses, but it's more of an inward pull. It represents foreign countries, and he is in a foreign country. He's in the USA. So, and it's more of an interior. So when we have planets in the 12th house, the focus is on spirituality, interior, a lot's going on in the subconscious, especially with the sign of Scorpio. So it's kind of interesting that we see K2 being in the sign of 10th, which could represent a receding from public life. And then there's a lot of stuff churning in the subconscious. Okay. And I remember in that, the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix, I do remember they did have like a meditation coach, didn't they? This would be a definite time where he could actually get into meditation, like really really intense meditations in this kind of chart. I mean, because Mars is in the 12th house and it's with K2, and K2 represents a dissolving influence. So maybe he's going to try to seek out enlightenment during this time. Now that's an extreme interpretation because most people don't end up becoming a yogi or something like that. Okay. But what I want you to know is with Mars being in the 12th house, it can represent trouble in foreign lands. So we have to consider that he's living in a foreign country, trouble in the foreign country he's in. So could this be trouble in the USA? Because that's his homeland right now, right? Or that's the foreign country that he's residing in. Trouble in USA, maybe. And then K2, there's like a letting go, abandoned. Okay, abandonment. So a lot of abandonment, I probably spelled it wrong. Okay, abandonment. When we're going through a K2 period, oftentimes there's some sort of abandonment that can happen. And what I'm worried about with Prince Harry's chart is considering that, you know, he's married. He got married to Meghan Markle during the Rahu Mahadasha. And this is the last bhukti of the Mahadasha, which usually indicates there's something to usually be left behind when you're leaving a Mahadasha and entering a new Mahadasha. So Jupiter Mahadasha in 2025, there's usually something that's going to be left behind and something new that's going to be built upon. Okay, so the thing about this is K2 is a dissolving planet itself, and the 12th house represents endings as well. So this could definitely indicate trouble within the marriage. For sure, we could see there during these periods, we could see a separation, we could see a split. 12th house represents endings. Okay, so there could be a split or a separation during this time. Okay, and I think it would be the most likely if there is going to be a split, it would be during this Rahu Mars period, especially considering Rahu's in the 6th house. And remember, 6th house can represent divorce. So that's what's really interesting. We could see the end of the relationship during this time, or at least a separation. It's possible, you know, it's not guaranteed, but it's going to be a struggle for them to keep the relationship together. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is K2's in the 12th house, and this can be like abandoning, like leaving the foreign country that you're in. So they're like leaving. Okay. And it's interesting because I get that indication when he enters the Jupiter Mahadasha in 2025, there's all this significations about homeland. So going back to the UK is strongly indicated in 2025. So I feel like there's going to be problems going on in the USA, or at least, you know, it at least problems according to Prince Harry. Okay. It could be wider problems. There could be a lot of problems, but it also could be in Prince Harry's mind, he feels like there's this distancing that's happened. He feels like he's kind of fading into the background, like no one really is taking him seriously anymore. So that could be part of it too. And there's this yearning to want to leave the foreign country that he's living in during that Mars K2 period. So of course, thank you for watching. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Also, I'm going to be doing more videos, of course, as important transits happening on Prince Harry, because the videos on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are so popular. So I'm going to be definitely releasing more videos. But I thought this was a really good update, especially considering that October 30th is going to be an important date for all of us when Rahu and K2 change signs. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.